So as part of my invocation today, I need to share a story with you about last Wednesday morning. I call it my 3D experience because I had 3 encounters with people who all seemed determined to discredit, demean, or dismiss me, hence the 3Ds. So after having a routine oil check and inspection done on my car, I pulled into a shopping center to have some lunch and noticed that my car locking and alarm system wasn't working suddenly. I called the mechanic who just worked on my car and asked what could have happened. He said that I was probably doing something to cause the problem, or I was just imagining it. Discredit. After lunch, I was about to back up out of the parking space when a huge delivery truck pulled up directly behind me and blocked me in. When I politely asked the driver if he could pull up a bit to let me out, he said no, and if I didn't like it, too bad. And he would be unloading for about 30 minutes, and I would have to wait. Demeaned. After waiting 30 minutes for the driver to finish and let me out, I went to Costco to buy replacement windshield wiper blades, but the box containing the 26-inch blades I needed was missing from the shelf. I made my way back to the store entrance and asked a customer service agent about the missing size. I was told that I was wrong and that there was a box of 26-inch blades on the shelf. And in fact, some were sold earlier that day. Dismissed. I was about to leave the store and fully accept my complete 3D experience and even add to it my feelings of dismay and disheartenment. But then I recalled the truth. The truth that I come from the greatest power in the universe, and I share in its nature. The truth that God didn't create me to play small or weak or to feel 3D insignificant. I was reminded of Eleanor Roosevelt's words about no one being able to make me feel inferior without my consent. I had the option to choose insignificance or to claim the worth of my true nature. I was suddenly driven into action, remembering the words from Christine Caine. Sometimes, when you're in a dark place, you think you've been buried, but actually, you've been planted. It was then I made the decision to embody my power, to sprout up from my 3D dirt, to blossom, and use my cell phone camera to show that indeed 26-inch windshield wiper blades were missing from the shelves. This resulted in the blades being immediately replaced, restocked. I purchased them and took them directly to my mechanic, who not only graciously installed the new windshield wiper blades, but repaired my car's locking mechanism, which turns out was accidentally disconnected by him. As for the demeaning parking lot delivery guy, I realized that when I stepped into my truth, I suddenly saw him through the eyes of God, which meant that I was able to experience compassion, forgiveness, and patience, and to fully realize that he was acting from a place of events and circumstances which I knew nothing about. Yes, this was a long lead-in for an invocation on reclaiming one's truth and power when feeling less than. Thanks for staying with me on it. And please join me in a moment of silence, realizing our incredible nature and that we are not to lie hidden in the ground, but instead are empowered to blossom and bring forth compassion, goodness, and divine right order. As we return our awareness back into this space, may our 3D experience be one of dignity, divinity, and delight. I give thanks for all the wondrous godlings planted all around me, the volunteers, the staff, and all who support and enrich our spiritual center. And as Anthony St. Martin reminds us, you are one thing only. You are a divine being, an all-powerful creator. You are a deity in jeans and a t-shirt, and within you dwells the infinite wisdom of the ages and the sacred creative force of all that is, all that will be, and all that ever was. And so it is. Namaste.
And now it's my pleasure. I always love introducing guest speakers that are my friends. So, Almost Reverend Kimjera is graduating with my beloved fiancée Nicole in June. And I know her by a person that celebrates joy and has this wonderful, infectious life that you may hear afterwards. You probably won't hear it on stage. But let me read her formal introduction she gave me. Born and raised in this teaching, Kimjera Whittington comes to us as a senior in the School of Ministry from Seaside Center for Spiritual Living in Encinitas. Her vision for her ministry is to empower others to shine authentically. She has 3 beautiful children, ages 10 through 17, and has been together with her husband, Brent, for 25 years and currently resides in beautiful Temecula, California. In her spare time, she's an avid runner and loves to travel. So please give a warm welcome to Almost Reverend Kimjera. Welcome.
Thank you for having me here. This is my second time, so I'm super excited to be back. And honestly, that was such a nice introduction, Reverend Michael. You guys are so blessed. I don't know if you know, it might be a top secret, but Reverend Michael and soon to be Reverend Nicole, they're a hot commodity, and you guys get them every Sunday. I know. So yeah, you guys are very blessed. So my talk title today is called Embracing Wholeness. And really what I wanted to do is just spend a little bit of time talking about, how do we step into this concept of our wholeness, that perfection of ourself, not from a having to be perfect standpoint, but from an already perfect standpoint. And how do we step into that in a way that is meaningful, is inspiring, and allows us to show up in all of our glory. So yes, I was born and raised in this teaching, and one of the fun things that I did as a child growing up, because we all have these wonderful affirmations that we hear, and the one that resonated with me growing up from very little was, I'm perfect, whole, and complete. You guys heard that one before? Yeah. So I remember being a child and running around, just picture me like this big, and I would go to school and I would do bad on a test, and I'm like, that's okay, I'm perfect, whole, and complete. I'd get in a fight with my mom or my siblings. That's okay, I am perfect, whole, and complete. Right? You get to that point in life where you're using that, and that's beautiful because it really is an affirmation. It's affirming our truth. And that's what Ernest Holmes, the founder of Science of Mind, teaches us, is that when we can step into claiming and saying what we want to have in our life, we ultimately can achieve that reality, right? What we think about is what ultimately we achieve. And so that was a great thing and a great affirmation for me to grow up with. As I got older, what I learned and realized is it's not always as easy as saying I'm perfect, whole, and complete. But instead, I actually have to learn how to embody it. I have to learn what it actually means to feel it. Because without those things, it's just words. And although it's a fantastic affirmation, we really create through the underlying feeling. And see, as a child, I was great, but this was a deeper meaning to it for me. And so I've been thinking about how to come about this whole concept of wholeness, and I came across an incredible quote from our beloved Marianne Williamson. You guys familiar with who that is? She's phenomenal, and it's a little long, so bear with me, but I think it's all relevant. She says, "Our deepest fear is not that we are inadequate, but our deepest fear is that we are powerful beyond measure. It is our light, not our darkness, that most frightens us. Your playing small does not serve the world. There's nothing enlightened about shrinking so that other people don't feel insecure around you. You are meant to shine like children do. And it's not just in us, it's in everyone. And when we let our own light shine, we unconsciously give permission for others to do the same. When we step into liberating ourselves from our own fear, our presence automatically liberates others. Isn't that beautiful? Yeah. So again, our deepest fear is not that we are inadequate, but it is that we are powerful. That is what it really means. And it is our light, not our darkness, that most frightens us. See, I found that very interesting when I was putting this together, because I think a lot of times we want to step into, what potentially might be wrong with us that we need to fix. We got fixers out there? Yeah, I mean, fundamentally in this teaching, we think that there's, things about ourselves that we can change our thinking, change our life, right? So ultimately there's something to fix. But the truth is that if we stepped into our light and shined as bright as we possibly could, that something different would happen in this world. So for me, as I was thinking about this, I was taking some time to really dive deeper into the whole concept of why do we not do this? Like, it seems like makes a lot of sense. And I know for me, when I'm thinking about my personal wholeness, I think that it's this concept that I get a glimpse of. That sometimes it shows up, and then sometimes I don't feel it. And I was trying to figure out, well, why is that? Why can't I just embrace it? Why can't I live it all the time? Like, wouldn't that be a glorious life, to just live it all the time? Now, some of you out there might be saying, oh no, I own my power. Like, I've got that, right? Power is my middle name. You got that? Any power people out there? And that's not in a bad way. That's not in a bad way. That's not ego power that I'm talking about. If you're relating to that, that is really like presence power, like understanding your God in action, and that you can be strong, and that's an okay, beautiful expression to be. It's that kind of a power, and that's great. And then for some of us, we kind of go, yeah, I think I step into that sometimes, but then, I don't know, something happens. And I think for me, the missing piece of what something happens is that feeling that we're doing everything right, but then all of a sudden it goes very, very wrong. And I think that's when we self-sabotage, and we don't even know that we're doing it. See, we're not conscious about it. It's not like we wake up in the morning and say, I'm gonna go and make a decision to have this wonderful love relationship, right? I've called it forth. And then today I'm gonna wake up and I'm really gonna make that person mad and make them wanna run for the hills. No, nobody wakes up thinking like that. It's just fundamentally things that we do because we have patterns of behavior. We have things that we have done and experienced since we were kids that have come up in us, and our fear creeps in, and we react from that place. And when we step into our fear and we allow it to take over for us, unfortunately, we make our spouse want to run for the hills. It happens. Think of people who want financial abundance. You are striving for it. You're so excited to have it, and you're claiming that you want to win the lottery. And there are people out there, in story after story, that they win the lottery, and within a very short time, they lose it all. You heard those stories? Did they wake up in the morning and say, yeah, today's the day, I'm going to make 5 million really poor decisions and lose it all? No, they didn't do that. But what happens is they fundamentally aren't prepared. See, the trick here is when we truly step into that power and into being that light expression, that we have to be it. That's the piece that nobody tells you. You know, you can't just talk about it, you can't just get excited about it, but you actually have to take action and show up as it, live as it. That's the part that's hard, at least for me. There's a great, incredible TV show right now that I am super inspired by, and I don't know if many of you have watched it, but it's called This Is Us. Yeah, if you haven't seen it, I highly, highly recommend it. It's a tearjerker, but it's really, really good. And I'm gonna give you a spoiler alert, so I apologize in advance. But there's this wonderful character in this TV show called Kate. And Kate has been through a lot. She is very overweight. I think she's probably over 300 pounds. And a lot of that has come from some issues that have happened in her childhood. And what's beautiful about this TV show is that it takes place with the 3 siblings as kids with their parents, and then it switches throughout the show to the adult version of them and how they're living and expressing. And so you get to see the dichotomy, right? You get to see the dynamic. If you haven't watched it, I'm telling you, it's incredible, because when things happen as a child and then all of a sudden they're expressing a specific way, if you are conscious beings, as we all are here, you connect the dots. So there's this beautiful scene because Kate, unfortunately, lost her father very young, and she blames herself for his death. And so it makes sense why she always had a problem with weight from a very young child, but it makes sense why it really kind of took over her life, because she has so much pain inside. She doesn't feel wholeness. She feels less than whole because she feels shame and guilt and frustration and anger and all these feelings because she thinks that somehow she's responsible. See, what happens is their house has a fire, and unfortunately, throughout that process of everything happening, Dad gets everybody out, but her little dog was left inside. And her being a typical 13-year-old, 12, 13-year-old, you can't totally tell what age she is, but she's young, and she says to her dad, "Oh my gosh," and she, she's like looking for the dog. And her dad runs back in. Okay? I don't know, I'm a parent of 3 beautiful children. I'd probably run back in, right? Because you don't want that child to be disappointed. So the dad did what he does because he loves her. And he ended up passing away that night. And she blames herself because of him running back in because it was from smoke. So that's kind of the background of how she gets to be who she is. But the part about it that I loved was back in her childhood when she's getting ready to go to college. She has this amazing experience where she's trying to step into this experience of, instead of going to a normal college, she wants to be a singer, and so she has to make a recording of her, and it's either a voice recording or a video recording, and the dad actually had a video camera at that time, but she was not okay with how she physically looked. So she said, "No, I just want my voice to be heard. I don't want that, Dad." There's this point that they show in the future of her watching her dad snuck in while she was singing onto the voice recorder, and he's videotaping her. And every year on his day of his passing, she watches this because she got to see herself the way he saw her. It's magical to watch it. It's so beautiful because that's God in action, right? I mean, nothing gets closer than that, a parent looking at a child with just such awe and glory and beauty. And for that split moment, she connected with her father, she connected with God, she connected with her sense of self and her wholeness because Dad saw her perfect, whole, and complete. Again, Marianne Williamson is telling us that we, as we let our light shine, right, others will have permission to do the same. There's another incredible story that just recently happened, and I don't know how many of you guys watched the Olympics. Do we like to watch the Olympics, some of us? Okay. So the Winter Olympics just happened, and I was incredibly inspired by the story of Adam Rippon, who is a figure skater at the Olympics. And you know, for those of you who have ever watched figure skating, it is notoriously not a sport that you are able to come out as a potential gay person at all, right? You just don't do that. What was so beautiful about this year is something shifted. See, Adam got a lot of attention before he got to the Olympics. A lot of negativity was stirring about him coming out as being part of the LGBTQ community. There was a lot of energy around it. I mean, there was a lot of controversy of him tweeting with the vice president of the country, Mike Pence. So I know that through what he was doing, something was shifting, and we didn't know what. But on the day of the Olympics, or a couple weeks of the Olympics, Adam showed up. And Adam showed up in a way that was absolutely awe-inspiring. And if you haven't seen it, I highly recommend YouTube some of this, because he was ready to stand up and just be him. He skated amazingly. Now, he didn't win gold, but his soul was heard across the world. And one of the beautiful things that I like, quotes that I like to talk about, is one from Reverend Michael Beckwith, where he says, "Sometimes the worst day for our ego is the best day for our soul." Right? So not winning gold was not the objective. And Adam would tell you, if you watch other videos about him, that he tried to get to the Olympics 4 years earlier, but unfortunately it was not in the cards for him. And he says that it wasn't in the cards for him because he wasn't ready. I think it had nothing to do with his skating. I think he wasn't ready because his soul and his energy and his person wasn't ready to show up in the light the way that he did this time. Because something happened. Again, he didn't win gold, but he changed the world. Literally the hearts and the minds of American people and people around the world. See, figure skating will never be the same again. He was glorious in all his sparkle and his jazz hands and all of it. Like, he took that stage and he skated like nobody has. And people fell in love with him and fell in love with the fact that things need to change. So that's what I'm talking about when you show up that way, right? When we allow ourselves to move out of fear, what do? We give permission for others to be liberated from fear. When we allow ourselves to show up and shine brightly, we give permission for others to show up and shine brightly. See, that's the idea of what it means to live truly from a wholeness perspective and feel good about who and what you are, regardless of circumstances around you. So with that, there's another beautiful, beautiful quote that I wanted to share with you from Oprah Winfrey, and she says, "Every time you state what you want to believe, you're the first to hear it. It's a message to both you and others about what you think is possible. Don't put a ceiling on yourself." Right? So how often have you put a ceiling on yourself? How often have you shrunk yourself down and made yourself small? We heard it in the song. We heard it in even the invocation. She talked about being small. I mean, it shows up over and over again. I love how Spirit synchronizes all of this without you even having to do it. I know that what is so amazing about this world is that each and every one of us have come here to express exactly who and what we are. And so when you're feeling that less than wholeness, it's okay. My recommendation on that is just to allow it to be, recognize it, and don't give it any power, because once you recognize it and make it okay to feel it, it loses all the power that it can have. That's the trick. It's when we try and ignore it and silence it that it gains its power. So with that, in closing, I'd like to give you one more final quote from Brene Brown that I think sums this up. And if you can do me a favor and just close your eyes. Take a deep breath in. And Brene says, stop walking through the world looking for confirmation that you don't belong. You will always find it because you've made that your mission. Stop scouring people's faces for evidence that you're not enough. You will always find it because you made that your mission. True belonging and self-worth are not goods. We don't negotiate their value with the world. The truth about who we are lives in our hearts. Our call to courage is to protect our wild heart against constant evaluation, especially our own. And with that, you can open your eyes again. See, for me, it's time for us to stand up and fight. Fight for ourselves. Fight like Adam did for the world, right? And when you do that, it's a very conscious decision to show up authentically and be you and love it. Because other people will love you just the way that you are and just the way that you're not. That's what truly makes us beautiful, whole, healthy beings. And so with that, I'd like you to repeat with me if you're good with that. Or repeat after me. I take back my light.
I take back my light.
I own my power.
I own my power.
And so it is.
And so it is.
Thank you. Oh, thank you.
Hello. There we go. And this is more of us. More of us. How exciting to be together. We were so inspired by your message, Kimjera, and getting to do this song for you. This is our fight song. We have Alan, Cindy, Marjorie, Bill, Rachel. Who's over there? I can't see you.
Pam.
Oh, Pam. Pam, can you get taller? I couldn't even see you. Oh my gosh. And there's Rock. It's very useful to be married to Rock. He shows up kind of everywhere. All right. Like a small boat on the ocean, sending big waves into motion, like how a single word can make a heart open. I might only have one match, but I can make an explosion. And all those things I didn't say, wrecking balls inside my brain, I will scream them loud tonight. Can you hear my voice this time? This is my fight song. Take back my life song. Prove I'm alright song. My power's turned on. Starting right now, I'll be strong. I'll play my fight song. And I don't really care if nobody else believes, 'cause I've still got a lot of fire left in me. Losing friends and I'm chasing sleep. Everybody's worried about me. In too deep, say I'm in too deep. It's been 2 years, I miss my home, but there's fire burning in my bones, and I still believe. Yeah, I still believe in all those things I didn't say. Wrecking balls inside my brain, I will scream them loud tonight. Can you hear my voice this time? This is my fight song. Take back my life song. Prove I'm alright song. My power's turned on. Starting right now, I'll be strong. I'll play my fight song. And I don't really care song. Take back my life song. Prove I'm alright song. My power's turned on. Starting right now. I'll be strong. My fight song. Don't really care if nobody else believes. 'Cause I've still got a lot of fire left in me. Now I've still got a lot of fight left in me.
Nice job working with you, Marjorie.